these prophecies and they say it's bad news. And I say it's not bad news. It's good news to say this reign of Satan is coming to an end. It's bad news to say that it stops in the middle of the crises. In the middle of the conflict that's coming, that would be terrible. Always going to cut your head off and it's the Antichrist. And I'm not looking for the Antichrist. I'm looking for the Christ. And the power of God. And to manifest the kingdom. Let's go to Psalm 83. And let's read that really quick. It says, do not keep silent, O God. Do not hold your peace and do not be still, O God. For behold, your enemies make a tumult. And those who hate you have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against your people. They have consulted together against your sheltered ones. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation. You've heard that in the news. Ahmadinejad, it was particularly famous for saying, we're going to make them not even be a nation. Talking about Israel. By the way, even though Israel became a nation, God used the UN to do it. Previously, you realize that Egypt and what is now modern-day Iran and the breakdown of that whole Middle East area was dictated by the UN as well. All of that is not just Israel, but they all agreed to allow their countries to become foreign. But when they carved out a little piece for the nation of Israel at the Holocaust, that's when it all got funky. But, and by the way, well, let me just keep reading. I'll digress again. I'm on this topic, let's move. They have taken crafty counsel against your people and have consulted together against your sheltered ones. And they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be remembered no more. For they have consulted together with one consent. They form a confederacy against you, like the Muslim Brotherhood. And the tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites, Moab and the Hagarites, Gebal, Ammon and Amalek, Philistia, and the inhabitants of Tyre, Assyria, also has joined with them. They have helped the children of Lot. Deal with them as with Midian, and as with Sisera, and as with Jabin and the brook of Kishon, who perished at Endor, who became as refuse on the earth. Make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeb, yes, all their princes like Zebah and Zalmunna, who said, let us take for ourselves the pastures of God for a possession. O my God, make them like the whirling dust, like the chaff before the wind, as the fire burns the woods, and as the flame sets the mountains on fire. So pursue them with your tempest, and frighten them with your storms. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek your name, O Lord. That's the end purpose. That they might also seek the face of God. And let them be confounded and dismayed forever. Yes, let them be put to shame and perish, that they may know that you, whose name alone is the Lord, are the Most High over all Israel. Again, we're not dealing with just people groups, we're dealing with principalities who are lying and deceiving people. And Allah is a lying and deceiving principality that has distorted the minds of multiple generations of people. So, let me try to do a little math here. And when I was doing it every day, it was pretty good. I might not get it now. Somebody might help me out. Okay. Let's do Israel. Israel. Then we have Sinai. We have Egypt down here, I think, right? And then we have Jordan next to Israel. I don't know how big it is. But up here we have Lebanon. Up here, Turkey. And somewhere down here, something like this is Syria. I think Damascus is somewhere right there. That would be Damascus. And then, I don't remember, Iraq. Saudi Arabia, I think somewhere in here. And then over here, Iran. And this is, I think of these other nations up there. But this is pretty much, I think that's a pretty good idea of where we are. Okay. So I say that to say that this is Bill Salas's label. I'm going to give you Bill Salas's label of the people groups for Psalm 83. There's some controversy over it, but let's go with it. That the tents of Edom is, what did he say? Those were Palestinians and southern Jordanians. Because down in southern Jordan, this area, what was classically called Edom, or it was Esau's descendants, the Edomites. How many of you know that the Herods were not Jewish? That the Romans put in charge of Israel during the time of Christ? That Herod was Edomite, Edomian. So he wasn't even a Jewish king that was in the proconsul over him. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry to hide it.
That's okay.
No, I have a Jewish friend though, actually, and she tells me that there is like a big controversy about Palestine because she's saying that the Palestinians never had a nation ever, and now they're trying to make one. So I'm
that is true. There was never a Palestinian country. The area prior to Israel becoming was called in fact, when in 136 A.D., when the Romans dispersed the Jews and made it illegal for any Jews to be in Jerusalem, when they left, they renamed the territory not to be Judea or Israel. They renamed it Palestine. And they did that to basically propaganda still conquer the Jewish people, and they renamed the land. It was remained and called that for years until as Israel returned. And then, again, like I said, historically speaking, as the Jews moved back in, they bought, the Zion movement started in the 1800s, they went back in and they began to purchase the territory, which was left desolate. And even Mark Twain says that this is the most desolate, god-awful armpit on the face of the planet. And who would want this? And they did that. So there was no country. That many of them were there was no governmental influence over that area in particular. And that changed hands in the Ottoman Empire, the Roman Empire, and then the Ottoman Empire most recently up until World War I. After World War I, they started to divide the whole territory up for all of these nations.
So does Palestinians, does that come from a political thing or is it a racial thing? That's what I'm wondering.
That's a good question. My understanding is that, well, the people that live in that area, the Palestinian Arabs, they live there, but this concept that the Palestine are being displaced out of a country is a political manipulation of the true fate of the people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it's still really Palestinians.
Yeah. As I understand it, most of them were Jordanian in the beginning.
Okay, see, that's okay.
That's as I understand it. Many of those people were from Jordania. But right now, let's go with this, the West Bank. Or that's Gaza, what is this, the West Bank? And those areas are under Palestinian control right now.
So it's just making me think about how they whole.
Yeah, you put it all together. Yeah, there's a lot of discussion here. So a lot more than I expected tonight, but well, praise God. So the tents of Edom would be what, this is again Bill Salas's assessment. There would be Palestinians, southern Jordans, because this is Jordan here, but it's also down this area was where the ancient Edomites would have been from. Then Ishmaelites, we know where Ishmael comes from, right? Abraham's first attempt. The Arab nations come from Ishmael. So that would be a lot of the non-Jewish Gentiles in this area. Their familiar descendancy would go back to Ishmael. Because actually, remember, Abraham had Ishmael first. Oh, this didn't work out. Hagar and Ishmael, you guys go. You can't be here. The angel says, no, come back. God's got plans for your kids. And then he goes out and he becomes a tribe, does earrings and identifies himself all that way. Actually, because they have Isaac, God's promise comes. Jewish tradition states that Ishmael actually was just a terrible big brother and was abusing Isaac out of jealousy, so finally they had to go their way. And then when Jacob and Esau came after Isaac, remember, Jacob and Esau gets the birthright, Jacob gets the birthright, Esau goes off, then he, to his mother's chagrin, marries into the Ishmaelite family. So so the Ishmaelites and Esau's descendants, they have what? They have a rejection issues that go generationally through the Jewish people, in which the spiritual realm grabs hold of that. And we're still seeing the consequences of that to this day. That's how far back this concept goes. So the Ishmaelites, which actually, he also became the father of Saudi Arabia. I mean, Ishmaelites populated this entire area. So I think he's saying the Ishmaelites represent Saudi Arabia based on his research. The Hagarenes, he says, are areas of Egypt. From Hagar, because Hagar was an Egyptian and the mother of Ishmael. Baal, in Psalm 83, is Hezbollah in northern Lebanese. Hezbollah in northern Lebanon. Ammon, we know Ammon was one of, in Jordan, because that's the city. So they are northern Jordan. Moab is right here, and then Edom is right there. So you have three of these people are Jordan, some aspect of Jordania. Amalek, and his areas was the Arabs in the Sinai area. So that would be the Amalek area here. Philistia, Philistia. Hamas in the Gaza Strip, which is where classic the Philistines were. Tyre, which is southern Lebanon up here. And then Assyria, which would have been northern Syria, northern classic Assyria was up in this area right here, where Syria, and it covers Syria and Iraq. The thing that he points out that's unique about this is that every single one of these nations, which is different than Ezekiel 38 and 39, the nations listed, the people groups, not necessarily the physical territories, but the people groups listed are all bordering upon the boundaries of Israel. They're right up next to it. And for many years he's talking about how this should have to be the battle, because based on this, when you go to Ezekiel 38 and 39, it's a whole nother set of people groups. Because Turkey's not mentioned, Iran's not mentioned, Gog and Magog are not mentioned. This is Russia's up over here. So, and they're working with Iran now. And Ezekiel 38 and 39, these two make a covenant, and Russia gets drawn into a battle with Israel based on their covenant with Iran, according to the ancient names, if we're overlapping. So that's the classic scenario. But when that battle happens, Bill Salas has actually postulated that this thing has to come because they need to expand their territory. Every time Israel has a conflict, their territory expands. And on a governmental basis, they're not starting the war, they ultimately end up defending themselves. So that's what he's saying there. That has yet to happen. That has yet to happen. But in the middle of this sort of thing, we have the whole Arab Spring that's happened over the past 4 years. And then you have this thing that's happening in Syria right now. And so, and in the Arab world, you have the Sunnis and the Shias at war with each other, looking to see who's going to control the caliphate, right? And they're in conflict, and Israel is right here in the middle of it. So, again, you can see how these are, and at some point they're going to have a conflict with this and extend. And in some ways, the scenario of it being a Psalm 83 war alone is sort of getting a little bit old because of all this other conflict. The minute one thing happens over there, it's like a powder keg. This thing could steamroll. Everybody's been waiting for it. Many people say this is a 3 years overdue, that they expected this thing to pop 2 or 3 to 5 years ago in the process. That it's getting more and more intense. Anybody have any thoughts or questions on that? Let's see. Okay, so let's go to Damascus. I'm just laying this out. Some people say that Psalm 83 has already happened as a war and as a conflict, but there's no real historical data to say that Israel had that kind of a battle with them. So as a prophetic battle, this is something that's in the limelight. Does that make sense? Let's see. Should I go there? I'm going to leave my map up. Let's go now